I'm so glad that you're doing this.
I'm really glad that I'm doing this. Thanks for bringing me the missing piece.
Randox calls their program here the ultimate wealth.
Health as well.
And you are now doing the Randox Regenerate package, which is 170 tests. I did the 80 blood test one and it made massive impact into my life.
So what my internist said is that I have such longevity into my life. He said, what we need to plan now is the next 40 years and what that looks like. And that's what this...
You have so much vitality. How do you maintain this vitality?
Nespresso. No, I'm kidding.
I do love a good coffee.
I also feel that if we cease to learn, we cease to grow.
Being joyful moment to moment is an active choice.
Absolutely. I wake up happy every morning and I can't tell you how many people I piss off.
And
listening's important.
Is it? I mean, like, what's the hack? Like, for any actor that's out there.
If your mind is wandering, that's not a great thing. But as an actor, the more that you can bring into a scene, no matter what it is you're actually thinking, and that it even has anything to do with what's on the page, because as an actor, you have to understand there's more white on the page than black.
If you had one piece of advice to give anyone who is embarking on the journey in entertainment, what advice would you give them? Hi, Tracey. Welcome to the Geniuses podcast. Thank you for joining us today. And our audience, I'd like to share with you a few words about Tracey's incredible career in this vast universe of the entertainment industry where fleeting moments often define legacies. Our guest today stands as a beacon of consistency, passion, and transformative talent. Tracey Bregman has gracefully danced across our screens, embedding her characters into our collective psyche, challenging the boundaries of what it means to be both vulnerable and powerful. Today, we dive deep into art, craft, and the very essence of storytelling. Please join me in welcoming the remarkable Tracey Bregman.
I don't even know if I can speak after that. Wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank you.
Now, two big questions. You and I have recently come together to do this. And the timing seems to be really profound because it sounds to me like you're actually on a quest, that there's something that has, an epiphany that has occurred recently that has brought us together. Do you want to share what that?
Yes, so I turned 60 May 29th of this year. And so I started around that milestone, full body MRI. I really wanted to get kind of a baseline and everything that was going on in my life, because you talked about fear. I had this underlying, are my doctors doing enough tests? Is everything okay? And then I had a cousin who we have the same radiologist, this radiologist who we all live and, die by. When he says, we're like, woohoo, another year.
Right.
And he misdiagnosed her cancer. And that was a turning point for me. And that's when I was like, something? Prevention is key, knowledge is power, and I'm going to take this into my own hands, and I hope to God everything's okay. But as simple as finding a little something in my lower back as to what was causing something in my foot, now I have the knowledge and I know what is going on, why that's happening. That's why I was thrilled when you called me about this, because this was the missing piece for me. And I'm so sorry.
No, please.
So I work with a French homeopath. I work with an internist who is remarkably thorough. And then I work with an anti-aging doctor. And I find that everybody needs to hold hands through all of this because there are many different modalities. And I'm not so sure just one is the way.
It's interesting because I know that you had a full body scan. And you are now doing the Randox Regenerate package, which is 170 tests with some novel tests that are research use only. I did the 80 blood test one, and it made massive impact into my life. 80 markers gave me insight into my future health. You're getting 170.
So what my internist said is that I have such longevity into my life. He said, what we need to plan now is the next 40 years and what that looks like. And that's what this does.
This health journey, are you seeing the opportunity to revitalize and be more vibrant?
It was an aha moment to take my health journey into my own hands.
Brilliant.
That's what happened. What part do I need to switch up, change up? Is it workout? I mean, I'm very clean eater. But you know, I know I have some genetics that play into things that there's nothing else I could do. And so I'm formulating this plan. And all of these things are important pieces, you know, all these other tests that I'm doing. And then my doctors and I can sit down and collaboratively figure out what's the next step.
There is a lot of discussion as to whether there is glamour left in Hollywood, in the business of movie making, in the business of entertainment, with the streaming services coming on and creating algorithms that define what is being shot. And so many of the streaming services seem to be cutting corners on budgets. The art of cinematography and the art of storytelling seems to be taking a back seat to numbers and algorithms. Here, your career has managed to remain elegant. And what do you have a perspective on what digital media and streaming services are doing to the entertainment industry?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, we all want it to be show fun, but it's show business.
Right.
And we always have to remember that.
Right.
I think streaming services have been amazing. It's been an evolution of television. When I started on my first show, Days of Our Lives, there were 14 soap operas. There's now 4 and 1 is streamed. So there's only 3 on network right now. So I really got the opportunity and the gift actually to see daytime television, if you will, in its prime.
Right.
Now I say, why are we even calling it daytime television? It's anytime television, because with streaming, it doesn't matter when it airs.
Yeah, 100%.
Really, if you're on network television per se, it doesn't matter. We can watch whatever we want. What's happening, if you're following with all of our union strikes, now our contract as daytime television is a different contract, and I think it's because we have the old after contract that doesn't come up until next year, and we have a no strike clause.
Right.
So we're always on.
Right.
But with these wonderful streamers, a lot of people are not getting paid for the streaming and for how many years they're showing certain shows. I just found out that the Entourage actors do not have residuals.
Wow.
How is that even possible?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Back in the day, if you were on a sitcom for 5 years, you were set for life.
Yeah.
Because of your residuals.
Yeah.
Now, yes, we're talking about money in one respect, but to get the union's health insurance, no matter who you are, you have to make a certain amount per year.
Right.
So a lot of the actors who had maybe worked for years and years and haven't worked for a while are not making eligibility for their insurance.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
talking about big names because they're not getting residuals. So it's
Do you know what the threshold is? What they
Yes.
have to earn? What is it?
$22,000.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the profession of being an actor is so hard. It's incredibly hard, but it's so funny because I do think that many of us pre-streaming services looked at whether it was sitcoms or daytime television as sort of a way, an index card to what decisions to make in life. I could correlate decisions to friends. I'd be like, okay, I have this situation happening in my life. What happened on Friends? And usually the outcomes paralleled, helped you make this decision in real life.
Actually, I think it's the soap operas that flesh it out.
Right.
That, first of all, a lot of people like to see people who are more messed up than themselves. And that's all of us on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
On TV.
Yes, not in real life.
Not in real
The
life.
characters.
The characters, please.
After Drake Ramore.
Right, exactly. So, for that, plus, when we were doing very socially relevant storylines, it made people maybe go get exams like what we're doing here today. Right. It helped people, with things that happened to them in their childhood. So we came into everyone's living room as they were living life. You see, nighttime television, it was like, oh, it's 7 o'clock, 7:30, let's watch blah, blah, 100%. And everybody would sit down. But as in a soap opera, during those days, where we were coming into everyone's life as they were living it, or the college kids were rearranging their schedules to watch us. A lot of professionals would schedule their lunches around us, specifically, sports people and entertainment people, especially music, because they were all getting up at 11:30.
Now, do you think being on camera is going to have relevance in the future? Do you think the concern of artificial intelligence generating characters, generating scripts is valid?
So let me give you a for instance.
Yeah.
So on this show, they have 40 years, and I'm just saying they, whoever they.
Yeah.
They have 40 years of me saying pretty much every word except a swear word you can imagine.
Gotcha.
In my contract, I have given them the rights to my likeness as the character, right? So back in the day, that meant, they can put my likeness in TV Guide. They can use scenes that I've done for commercials on that network, right?
Right.
So if we agree to this whole AI situation, that means they can use my audio and my visual and make a completely different show, and I don't benefit financially.
Right.
Where does that make sense?
Now, is that part of the backbone of the strike?
Yes.
Yeah.
And plus, if you really look at the percentages, and I can pull it up, the percentages of what the unions are really asking of these companies, it is so minuscule, you would be surprised.
Right.
So that's why none of us are understanding, because without the writers and without the actors, what the heck are you gonna do?
What do you got? Who's right?
And you and I had talked about whether animation and whether this AI is going to replace actors.
Yes.
I don't think it's possible. Now, think about the difference between a hand-drawn cartoon compared to when Toy Story started and Pixar.
Right.
So when that started,
Gotcha.
yes, it was animated. Yes, it was cool.
Yeah.
But they never had the emotional pull of the hand-drawn cartoon.
What do you think the future of acting looks like?
I wish I knew. I hope it's what we're still doing. And what is entertaining to people, and people watching other people go through all sorts of stories and emotions and things that happen and situations. I know I wouldn't want to watch AI people completely. I want to see you in a situation. My favorite actors. I want to see Julia Roberts. I want to see Sandra Bullock.
Do you think there's movie stars in the future?
I hope so. It's I think evolving there as well. Although with all these different platforms, so many more actors get the opportunity to act.
Yeah. Which one's the better?
Well, back in my day, we really only had 4 channels, and the 3 main and 11. So the amount of jobs was very narrow.
Yeah.
Now, if you have an iPhone and an editing program, honestly, look at TikTok.
One of the things that I noticed when I was shooting a movie, I shot a movie with Wes Bentley called Hirokin, and I was lucky in that it did really well. I made it for $1 million. It did $20 million for Lionsgate.
Wow.
But what I realized there was that the actors that seemed to sparkle on screen were the ones that were listening. And
listening's important.
Is it? I mean, what's the hack? For any actor that's out there.
Because if you're just sitting there with something else on your mind, and I'm going to put that into 2 different parts. if your mind is wandering, that's not a great thing. But as an actor, the more that you can bring into a scene, no matter what it is you're actually thinking, and that it even has anything to do with what's on the page, because as an actor, you have to understand there's more white on the page than black.
Right.
And it's our job to fill the page.
Yeah.
And whatever it is that we've got going on, that the camera will pick up that there's something going on, and that we're thinking, that we're listening, and that we're understanding, or whatever the character is.
That's so interesting, because I brought on Larry Moss to work with our actors before shooting.
Amazing.
And I remember I took many of his classes as a
That's so smart.
Yeah, to figure out what to do as a director.
Yeah.
Because I was directing. And for 10 years I took his classes, and I realized that and he had this big thing between Mammoth, which is just play it by ear, right? Versus intentions, state of being, active verbs that you can actually act.
But you can merge all of that, because if you do all your homework right at that moment, the best thing you can do is throw it all out.
Right.
And know that it's in there, and just see what the spark is.
Right. Brilliant.
Because then it's fun.
Yeah, because then you can be present.
Right.
Which we should talk about how that relates to health in life, right? Because I find that humans fall into two categories: the people that can be present in a moment, in a conversation, in scene, on stage, in front of a camera, and the people that can't. And actually being present is the thing that I'm working most on. So I'd love to get your perspective on how you stay present. But in terms of the actor who is present and letting all of the preparation go, I find, is it that you could, if you are letting all the preparation go, do you still modulate your intentions based on the homework, or do you even let the intentions go?
See, it all depends for me, because I like to do my homework and I like to put everything in. And sometimes it works for me to use what I've put into each scene. That I'm not sure whether that's explaining it correctly. So the work for me is every line I'm going to be playing something else or thinking something differently.
Right.
Sometimes I really have to hold on to that in the scene.
Right.
And sometimes it behooves the scene and me to let go of all that work and just feel the sparkle and see where it goes. Because I think that's the fun of it, is you can put all the pieces of the puzzle together, which is my favorite thing to do. Because normally I'll look at a scene and go, what am I gonna do with this? Yes, I can read a scene and know I need to hit A, B, C, and D. But in between that, where's the fun for me? Where's the fun for the audience, and where's the fun for my fellow actor?
And does that come back to being present? And do you see in your real life world, in your day-to-day, are you able to be present as you are on stage or in front of the camera?
Well, when you're in front of the camera, it's like you've walked into a vortex. And you hope to God, during that whole time, you can stay in that vortex. Because when you start losing attention and you're fighting to stay in it, that is really hard. And as an actor, you can be in front of the camera, as you know, an hour or 12 hours. And I've done it for even longer. My character was twins, where I had to do 27 scenes with myself, all in a row. And then we did this House of Mirrors ending to the whole story, where I was at work at 6, on camera at 8, and didn't leave being in front of the camera, and I'm not kidding, from 8:00 a.m. till 4 a.m.
You're joking.
And everybody said, how on earth are you still present?
How are you alive?
And it's because, well, if I'm not, who is gonna do it? So at the end of the day, I always have to remind myself, even after all these years, at the end of the day, who's on camera and who's it all going to rest on?
Right.
Is me.
That's 100% you.
No one's going to have a banner underneath. I had a bad morning. That's why things aren't so sparkly.
My coffee's too strong. I've got heart palpitations.
Whatever it is. You know, I raised kids. I was up every night. You know, I always say I deserve about 8 years of sleep just from raising 2 sons. Right. And all of that, it's not going to say that. So at the end of the day, I'm on camera. What am I going to bring to the table? And it's not fair for my co-star if I'm not present.
We talked about this briefly about being present.
Mm-hmm.
And I equate being present with no thoughts.
Well, that's so interesting that you say that, because I have a friend who swims every morning. And the first thing I said to him is, oh, do they make like AirPods for the water so you're listening to music? And he said, no, for 30 minutes. He said, I'm thinking about things. I was like, oh, I don't know if I could be alone with my thoughts for 30 minutes without music.
Yeah.
I know that sounds silly, but that would put me to the test. It's why I have to do guided meditation.
It's funny, I do the same thing with yoga because again, in yoga, I'm seeking just to not have thoughts. And so if there's music, I can actively listen to the music, which gets me into the no thought state. Would you say that your horse riding and your walks is your meditation?
I always say riding my horse is my Zen, my yoga, because the minute you take your mind and your focus off that horse is when you could probably get hurt. It's most likely the time.
Right.
Because they're a crapshoot at every moment. You never know where they're going to see something out of the corner of their eye. They're going to spook. There's so many different variables going on. So you need to have a connection with your horse so you feel it or you can sense it before it's happening. So it is such a school in focus. I can't even tell you.
Like listening and being present.
You have to.
All your senses and no thought. It's like samurai on a horse.
And it's hard. And it's hard to do. And I find that is as hard as heels down, which is a riding position. You always have to have your heels down.
For me, recently, I've discovered that what I wish for has changed. But my blink response was that I wished for the ability to be grateful, to listen in the moment, to be present, and to like not have those thoughts. So I'm actively seeking systems like yoga and all those things that create constant connection to source, absence of thought, and the ability to be grateful moment to moment if possible.
But gratitude, I think, is a game changer. And I know we all heard Oprah talk about her gratitude journal, which I used to do with my kids when they were little. Every night when I was putting them to sleep, I would lie next to them and I said, tell me 5 fabulous things that happened to you today.
Oh, I love that.
And what are we grateful for?
Wow.
And it was a great way to kind of end the day as to looking at the good.
Brilliant.
Looking at the good things that happen.
Teaching that to your children.
Yeah,
oh
and
my
teaching
gosh.
them.
It's incredible because our relationship with our moms defines so much of who we are.
Our whole attachment.
And I find that people that have had great traumas struggle to let go. Is there a piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with anyone who might be pursuing acting or stability in their lives in terms of the ability to find solace, peace, or let go of trauma?
Well, I'm going to say something very simple and then I'll go into it.
Yes.
Turn your pain into art. Because the more that you can infuse your real life and your pain into your work, the more spectacular it will be. Ivana Chubbuck has a great exercise when you need to connect with someone instantly for a scene where you have passed, you have like years of being with someone and you literally just said, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. And that's called the commonality of pain. And if you can find commonality in some way in your past, in your pain and things that you've gone through, it will connect you for that project. And I always say that the commonality of pain, even when you're at a dinner party, works.
Wow, to get you in the moment present.
Because I gotta tell you, I'm not great at big parties because it's really hard for me to have shallow conversation. But you put me at a table with 11 people I've never met before,
Right.
I'm all for it, because I'll have a chance to talk to each person and have that chance to connect or find commonality. Maybe it's not going to be all about pain. You hope you're having some laughs, but being able to connect through that is a great thing. Obviously, if you had trauma in your past, therapy is a wonderful, wonderful tool.
Sure.
And working through that, because you want to live a happy life, but the double-edged sword of that, and I'll tell you what my son said, is it gives you a richness of the base of which you work from. And I did some EMDR.
What is that?
With our friend
Larry
Melissa.
Moss.
Melissa.
Oh, Melissa.
EMDR
yes.
is trauma therapy.
Okay.
And it reconnects the neurotransmitters in your brain from a traumatic experience. And I went to get rid of one part because I felt it was really blocking me, but it was the memory that I always used when I needed to have emotional scenes.
Wow.
And my son, Landon, who's an actor, said, "Ooh, that's really risky to get rid of that." I was like, I know I'm really struggling with it, but it's really not serving me in my life, but it's serving me in my screen life.
The commonality of pain is a way to get into the moment, whether you're at a dinner party or in a scene.
Mm-hmm. Or even commonality, finding commonality, and actually that will keep you present. I mean, I go back to, as long as you're interested, you're going to be present.
Be curious, be interested,
Yes.
commonality of
Right.
pain.
Sometimes fear, and I'm not talking about the back alley fear,
Okay.
but fear is telling you you're in the right place,
Tell me what you mean.
because it means it's something you have to do.
Right. So you
Like-
face your fear.
Yes, like live theater.
Right.
And nothing could make me more fearful
Right.
than that, right? There's many, many things, but sometimes it's the right barometer that, I think this is something I have to do. So live television has always been very hard for me and fearful and blah, blah, blah. So my manager brought me a deal to do Home Shopping Network. And I was like, oh, great, this is a great way, to see how I feel about this. I could feel the sweat while I was on camera. And luckily my sweat had the wonderful compassion to go backward so I could feel it down my
amazing.
back, and
Yeah.
it wasn't coming this
Yeah,
way
yeah.
like Albert Brooks in broadcast news.
Right.
It was in the back of me, and I thought, whose idea was this? This is not fun. I'm not
Right.
having a good time. And I knew, though, even though I was filled with fear, that it was something I needed to do. And I kept doing it. And what I did do to help myself is I had hypnotherapy,
Oh, wow.
because I knew I wanted to do this. I knew I had to do it because I was so fearful, but it was fun in its own way. So I did hypnotherapy, and the more I did it, the better it got and the more fun it was.
Did it work?
Yeah.
You were able to be hypnotized to overcome fear.
4 sessions.
Stop it. I do hear a lot of people saying that hypnotherapy works.
And by the way, I just want to throw this out. So
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Not at all.
But I would like to throw this out.
Yeah.
I was under the auspices that, you see all those shows where people act crazy and you think, oh, that's what hypnosis is.
Right. Clucking like a chicken.
Yes. This is me in hypnosis. And I feel so badly for her because it's not working. I'm as judgmental as you get in hypnotherapy.
Wow.
Session 1, right? This isn't working. But both times they were with friends of mine, so I was like, I don't want to tell them. And in one of the sessions, my friend said, oh, and you have balloons on your wrist. This is me. What? What is she talking about? And they're filled with helium and they're bringing your arm up. And I'm going, what is she talking about?
Really?
Oh my God. And I was fully awake and aware.
Wow.
I just felt like I was having a guided nap. But awake a nap,
I think we've seen that represented in movies, right? Where the person is not aware that the hypnosis is working.
That they're doing, well, no, I think in the movies we see them do silly things and we think that that's what it is. So I was so stunned when it actually worked.
You know, and that's what Steve Jobs called uncomfortable, right? He said, never get comfortable, continue to pursue your uncomfortable state.
Exactly.
You happen to be one of the most beautiful women. You actually just have this radiance and you have this physical beauty.
Thank you. So sweet.
I'm wondering if you have something that you do that could help others maintain their health and happiness.
I think the biggest thing for me is my connection to nature. I am really taken with walking and seeing nature, going into the forest, and by forest I mean there's a park in Nashville.
Right, of course.
But it's
the
like this
stuff.
forest, right? And I love to walk through there. I'm always checking in with my mental health.
Brilliant.
I'm always checking in with, oh, do I need to take a longer walk because I need to work things out? Let's just say when I'm quiet is when everybody needs to panic because it means that I'm processing. But I'm an only child and I don't know whether it's that, but I do need my time alone. And my dog and I go for a long walk every morning because that's what keeps my mental health clear. So I guess for me, connection really is also about my animals. You know, my little chihuahua, my rescue chihuahua is with me all the time. And I don't think you can feel sad when you have this wonderful little being with you all the time.
Yeah.
But I have 12 animals, 10 of which are rescued, some from really horrible situations. And they just give me so much life. And when I'm with them and in my muck boots and in the paddocks with, I have 6 horses. I have a mini donkey named Pickles, who's my absolute heart. I have a very standoffish sheep named Sheepish and 2 dogs, 2 cats. There's just, it's hard to not be happy when you're around them. I have an animal foundation called World Paws that my friend Dawn Ann Billings, she and I do a curated fashion line every quarter, and then we benefit a charity rescue around the world.
And that's spelled World Paws as one would think.
No, actually Pawz.
Oh, good. I'm so glad I asked.
Yes, I'm glad you did too.
So worldpaws with a Z.com.
And you can go on Instagram.
Okay. Worldpaws with a Z on Instagram and .com.
Right. And for me also, feeling good is giving back.
You've seen the Brené Brown talk on vulnerability. Does vulnerability play into your life in terms of creating authentic relationships?
Well, if you can't be vulnerable, I mean, I think you can have a relationship of sorts, but it may not be the kind of relationship that you and I seek.
Right, right.
Some people are so afraid of that.
Yeah.
I don't think vulnerability gives up your power. I actually think it makes you more powerful.
100%. I find that vulnerability is a great tool to let go. You know, when you say something vulnerable about yourself, you find yourself grounded and in the moment. Who has been your greatest mentor or most influential guide?
I think my father, from the first part of my life. He taught me everything. He was in music. He started Verve Records. He arranged and conducted and did records with Ella Fitzgerald and Bing Crosby and everyone that you can ever imagine. But I just remember being on sets with him constantly. And I was always curious how everything worked. Like my father did a movie with, it was Olivia Newton-John's first movie. And we were in York, England, and it was Georgie Fame and all these incredible singers and dancers. And he hired this DP that I just loved, Gil. And during all the breaks, I would sit with Gil and he would teach me the camera and he would teach me how he wanted to like make things starry. And back then they didn't have the lenses. So he said, oh, let me get some nylons. And he would put nylons over the lens and I would sit with him and he went on to do all the Star Wars movies. And I was in edit bays till 3 o'clock in the morning and in the music sessions. And my father would take me to Abbey Roads while he was doing albums and then I would always wander. That was the one thing. You always had to keep your eyes on me because if you turned around, even as a little child, I would be gone because I would be exploring. And that's how I met David Bowie.
Have you read this book, The Outliers?
Mm-hmm.
So there's in this book, Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about the 10,000 hour rule. And it seems to me that you as a child got to spend 10,000 hours learning the craft of the lens, learning about acting, the tricks of the trade through Gil, which created this ability to be this, magnanimous and powerful force on camera. The 10,000 hour rule simply says that there is no such thing as talent. That if you look at any person that has been super successful, they had access in an unusual way that gave them 10,000 hours of practice.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, now it's interesting because my mother was such a studied actress. I mean, we talk about Sandy Meisner, my mother was in class with him. You talk about Stella Adler, my mother was in class with her. So it's so fascinating. My mother's turning 91 this year. And the relationship, I moved her to Nashville on the farm with me. And the relationship that we're having now, because she's so sharp and strong and talk about fierce.
So with the EMDR and dealing with the trauma that was no longer serving you in terms of your life, but serving you in your career, did that bring focus into what you wanted to create in your life? What is it that you want in life?
It cleaned up. It cleaned up because I felt that I was going in directions that weren't the best for me in my life because I hadn't dealt with this.
Right.
So yes, was it harder when I all of a sudden got emotional scenes again that I didn't have that draw? Yes, very much so. But then, like life, something else will replace it that you can draw from. But I felt that was really holding me back in my personal life.
And what is it that you're trying to create in your personal life?
A lot of joy. I've worked very hard for a lot of years, for 45 years straight. From the time I was 14, I've never been out of work, thank God.
Touch wood.
Yep.
This is good wood right here.
Yeah. And I've really enjoyed every part of it. And there were years that, I never saw weather. I drove in the morning, in the dark, and drove home in the dark, and raised 4 phenomenal humans. 2 were my stepdaughters, clearly have a wonderful mother.
But I still can't believe you have kids.
Yeah, thank you. And my older son's getting married. There's so many beautiful times ahead. I just, I always want to create a good time at this point.
Have you found the meaning to life? Is there a meaning to life, or is it just play?
I think I said this to you earlier that if you cease to learn, you cease to grow. And I'm here to continue to understand, have deeper understanding, deeper relationships, deeper experiences, and enjoy everything along the way.
Is passion a part of that? Where does passion
Always.
and sex and relationships fit into the healthy lifestyle?
It's everything. If all those things make you this robust, passionate human. To not have that, I think would be so, empty and hard.
You have so much vitality. How do you maintain this vitality?
Nespresso. No, I'm kidding.
I do love a good coffee.
Because I have a passion for life.
Yeah.
I have a passion for what I do for a living. I have a passion for all my outside businesses, even though I question some of them on a daily basis. Why am I doing this? But at the end of the day, they are passion projects.
If you had one piece of advice to give anyone who is embarking on the journey in entertainment, what advice would you give them?
Have a plan B or something else that you're interested in as well. Study.
Do the work. Yale Drama School, David Rotenberg.
Doesn't need to
Ivana
be
Chubik.
Yale. Well, for me, it was Ivana Chubik, and Tony and Jean Bua. But there are so many different places, and even now, online, but it doesn't have to cost a fortune. One piece of advice, if anybody asks you, like an agent asks you for money, run. No agent should ask you for money.
Brilliant.
Upfront.
In general, even to make connections, right? I mean, I find that the minute someone asks for money to get you something,
Right.
please run.
No, but I get really concerned about people who are saying, "Oh, this person connected us on Instagram, and they're asking for $1,000. They'll do all these things." No, pass. That's not the way it works.
That's really great advice. I'm so glad that you shared that. Well, you are consistently one of the most peaceful, loving, kind, fun people that I get to be around. It's such a pleasure and privilege to have sat down with you and talked. Thank you for sharing so many of your beautiful insights. And it's wonderful that we got to mix it up a little bit and talk about so many different things.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I feel like we covered the whole gamut.
And we haven't talked in so long because you and I can walk into a very chaotic situation and we'll always find our moment to connect and talk and catch up.
Yeah, my magnet is always attracted to your magnet. I always find you somewhere.
I know, right?
I love you and adore you. So grateful for our friendship over the years.
Me too.
And I'm so glad that you're doing this.
I'm really glad that I'm doing this. Thanks for bringing me the missing piece.
And what happens with this is that you actually get a report that is like stoplights. Green, amber, red. Right. So it tells you where, this isn't your report, obviously, this is a sample report. But for me, I was able to look at things that were amber, things that were red. You're gonna get 170 biomarkers, and this is going to be super impactful into being able to make micro changes now when it matters, because you've seen what your future health looks like.
Right, exactly.
And Randox has been serving the UK for over 40 years.
Ah, amazing.
And they're recently expanding into the United States. This location is the first lab here in Los Angeles at 900 Wilshire Boulevard. And the package that I got is only $395. So 80 biomarkers, 80 blood tests with 100 biomarkers actually, markers that should be in every test, but we just don't do that here in the United States.
It's interesting.
So I'm glad that you're gonna get this. And Randox calls their program here the ultimate wealth.
Health is wealth.
You said it better than I could.